Hi all, thank you for tuning in. I want to just let you all know that the audio in these clips are a little bit rough to listen to because we were outside with a lot of background noise and my microphones decided to stop working. So the camera audio is what we have for this conversation, but I can guarantee you there's so much great information here. So please take the time to put on subtitles or captions so you don't miss any part of this conversation. And with that, let's get into it. After some technical difficulties, but starting from the top, I wanted to welcome you all to the Nurturing Nature y Nosotras video series. I'm Tatiana, I'm a naturalist and educator here in Teachings by Tatiana, and this video series is going to cover all things culture, community, and our natural environment. And today's guest is a very special one. I'm joined by Camila, a naturalist and yoga teacher, speaker of the environment in all many ways. So that's what we're going to get into. Hopefully, if the planes let us get into this conversation. But I'll let her say a little bit about herself and we'll kind of dive into the conversation. So whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, my name is Camila. I'm a naturalist for Broward County Parks and Recreation. That is quite literally my job title. I'm a park naturalist, so my job is to teach people about nature. So that means kids as young as like 2 years old. We even have like some babies, but I don't think they're picking up much. And then our oldest participant was like in their 90s, so wide range of people that I get to work with. And we have all different sorts of programs, so it's a great job. And then I also teach yoga on the side. I have my own little yoga business, so I kind of teach wherever I want. In like not really studio settings, more like outdoor settings. Yeah, and it's really fun.
So happy to have this conversation. We kind of did a little preview of the conversation just between us before we started recording, and before the technical difficulties. So we'll start again. But the first question I was asking you was kind of thinking about your life and its phases and how that may or may not relate to nature. How would you describe the phase or season of life that you're in right now?
So right now I'm definitely in my spring era. A lot of things that I've been working on for a long time are finally like coming into fruition, which is really nice to see. And it's kind of just like letting things unfold right now and yeah, getting ready to keep working.
And I think this conversation, like you had mentioned previously, is also part of that process. Like
yeah.
all these things kind of clicking.
Yeah, it was like
and all the stuff you've been working on.
We've been in communication for a while, and yeah, just like supporting each other. And then you asked me to be on the podcast, and I was like, oh my goodness, yes. And then like people have been asking me to teach yoga in like other places that I never thought that I would teach.
Camila made us some very delicious, beautiful tea. We had a little ceremony before starting, so we'll be sipping on that as we continue the conversation.
So I actually got certified to teach yoga just because I wanted to be in an ashram. So when I graduated college, I was very kind of lost. So my whole college career, I thought I was going to be a coral reef scientist. And then during my 4th year, I went to a liberal arts school, so we had to write a thesis at the end of it. And I was like, should I write a research paper on coral reefs, or should I do something more education-based? Because just naturally throughout college, I found myself in a lot of education settings. So I helped my professors. I was a TA for a program in Panama where we were studying coral reef ecology. I helped my teacher with workshops that she did for middle school and elementary school teachers. And we taught teachers how to teach certain programs. So I found myself in that setting quite often. And so I was like, wait, I think I should be an educator. And so I was kind of torn between the two. I had that realization of no, I am not a scientist. I do not like being in a lab. I do not like writing research papers or grants. It's not fun. It's just not fun. And education was something that I found very fulfilling. But because I grew up with that those who can't do teach kind of mindset, I was like, no, I don't want to be a teacher. But then I came to realize, no, teaching is it's a gift, honestly. Not everyone can teach effectively. And if you have that gift to be able to like teach people, be able to meet them where they're at, and like transfer information to them in a way that they'll understand it, that is very valuable. And I was raised to think that like it wasn't, but once I did realize that, I was like, okay, I have to go into education. Nonetheless, so I was like torn, whatever, didn't know what to do. So I started studying more yoga just on my own, like reading books and practicing on my own. And there was an ashram that was like by my parents' house, which an ashram's like just like a yoga center where like people can go and like fully live yoga. So like from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, you are doing some form of yoga. So I was going there like very frequently, like every day I would go there and just volunteer. So I was helping out in like the garden. They were building like new bathrooms and like housing and stuff. So I was helping with that. I learned a lot of skills. I learned how to use like heavy machinery, which helped me with my naturalist job actually. I learned a lot about like gardening and stuff while I was there, and it was just I was volunteering my time because I didn't know what else to do with myself, and I was learning yoga and I was around people who were studying yoga, so that was very like fulfilling. And then my mom was just like, you're spending so much time there, why don't you just get your yoga teaching certification so that way you're like getting something out of being there. And I was like, I just want to do yoga and be left alone. But she was like, no, like we'll help you, like if you want to do this, like you can be there for 2 weeks, you don't have to come home for 2 weeks. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll do it. So I did it, and I'm like doing the course, and a part of it is obviously learning how to teach yoga, but what I really liked about this program, that it was much more focused on like learning about yoga on top of teaching. So you're learning a lot about like the philosophy, about like the lifestyle that is yoga. And that's really why I started doing it. But then when we started practicing teaching, I was having so much fun. I was like, oh my God, this is actually really like fulfilling. Like I was just teaching like the people who were in the course with me. But yeah, I just like, I found the flow when I was teaching, and like people were complimenting the way that I was teaching. They're like, yeah, it comes so naturally to you. And I was just like, okay.
Great. Yeah.
So when I finished the course, I was like, I guess this is something now I have under my belt. I can do for like extra money. Yeah, and that's kind of how I got started.
I love that whole journey, and I feel like the part you said at the beginning really resonates with me. Like having a skill set to be an educator is really precious, and it's not something you understand unless you're in that situation like us, or maybe in somebody's learning journey you realize, hey, it's really hard to explain complicated topics like yoga, like science.
Yeah.
And I really, that resonated with me a lot, because I had that same thought process where I was like, I don't like research, I don't see myself in a lab coat. I found it very boring, but I love science and nature and the environment, so I feel like that in between of being able to talk to like lay people about like, this is the really amazing stuff the scientists are doing, you know?
Yes,
and
yeah.
breaking it down into something digestible, relatable, and making it fun, that's not easy.
No, it's not. And I think it takes a certain kind of person. Like,
Absolutely.
It's definitely, I feel deep down, it is a gift that people have. And I think society, like, tries to, like, make people think that it's, anyone can teach. But it's like, anybody that's taken any sort of education knows that there are good teachers and then there's bad teachers. And those good teachers have that gift, and bad teachers are the people who either gave up on their dreams or like were forced to teach to fulfill some requirement in their like curriculum for like their PhD or something. And it's like they're not there because they want to be. And you can feel the difference, you know?
I had mentioned to Camila before we had this conversation, I was like, I feel like we're really counterparts in a way. Like, you're doing all your great stuff here in Broward, and I'm working on my stuff in Miami, but it's like everything you're saying is like literally me. Like, I don't understand how we've lived the same life, but it's true. Like, I really think like those who are meant to be on this path and can do it well, like, are successful. But it is a very unique experience. Like,
Yeah.
To kind of blend, like you were talking about before, like the people skills that you really have to take on, and also the knowledge and communication that goes into actually being an effective educator.
Yeah, because you need to be able to explain it on multiple levels. Like, if you're explaining, you should be able to explain everything you're teaching to a 2-year-old and have them understand it to some capacity. And you should also be able to explain it to somebody who's much older and has much more like knowledge on the topic, and still make it interesting for them, like it. And that's challenging.
For me personally, my culture, I'm Colombian, my culture informs everything that I do, subconsciously. Because my worldview is just very different, because I feel like I have my lived experience, like living in the States, living in Miami, but also all the backstory that comes with my lineage.
Yeah.
Right? And I only started to really embrace that when I got into college, and I was like, there's a lot of people who are different than me. How do I fit in, or how don't I fit in? And I had mentioned this to you previously, that like being bilingual, I feel like is such an asset in the work that we do, and it's something I don't take for granted, but I feel like that adds a whole other layer of like, I'm trying to get my people, my community outside, or understanding the value of the outdoors or nature, or even maybe to a certain extent for you, yoga, because I know myself that has been a journey for me to like understand like letting go and breath work and all that comes with that. So at least for me, like my heritage is very much present in everything that I do, and I know that you've led a lot of programs in Spanish, which I feel like is so special and powerful. So I wanted to know, like, just in your opinion, how do you feel like who you are influences how you do your work?
Well, I'm like half Ecuadorian, half Cuban, but I was raised in South Florida, so I do resonate a lot more with my Cuban part. My Ecuadorian part, I was born in Ecuador, but I left when I was 4 years old, so I don't really have a lot of like connection to that side. And growing up in South Florida, there's so many like Latin cultures, and I grew up in Hialeah, so it was like, yeah, like so much like Latinos, especially Cubans. So that had a big influence on me. And I think like growing up, especially in the United States, it was kind of like I neglected my Spanish, and I became like a no sabo kid sort of thing, where I like did not speak well in Spanish. And I started losing it, and I didn't really care that I was losing it. And my parents were very much like, you need to practice more Spanish, you need to practice. And I was like, ugh, whatever. And then I got to college, and people were speaking Spanish that didn't speak Spanish because they thought it was cool, or because like they thought it was like an asset, to be able to be bilingual. And then that's when it really hit me, like, oh my God, like being bilingual is a superpower. Like being able to speak more than one language is really valuable in this world. And I've gotten jobs and like internships and scholarships literally for just being bilingual. So it made me embrace that side of me. I had this one friend, she's Italian, by like, like descendants, but like from New York, whatever. And she was studying Spanish, and she was like, she works with me now at Broward. She's a naturalist too. Shout out to Allegra. But she was practicing Spanish and like studying Spanish in college. And I started practicing with her because I was like, I need to brush up on my Spanish. Yeah. And she was like, oh, you can help me because you speak Spanish. And I was like, girl, you're helping me. Like, we would play board games in Spanish. We would play Adivina Quién, guess who? So it was super fun. Yeah, and then after that, like working for Broward County Parks, I was like, yeah, we definitely need to do something for the Spanish-speaking community. And I tried a couple times, like creating a program in Spanish, and it never really took off until I started calling the event Niños en la Naturaleza. Yeah. So I used to call it Exploración en Español. Barely, nobody even like showed interest, nothing. As soon as we got the kids involved, Niños en la Naturaleza,
Changed it.
Took off. Especially there's like a group of moms in South Florida who are working on like making their kids bilingual and like embracing being bilingual and embracing like Latin culture in South Florida. And they have helped a lot with advertising the event, and it's just like nice to see like that. They have this vision that they're doing with their group, and they're like making our event very visible to the world in like this little world here in South Florida. but they've gotten so many people to come out to this event, and it's really fun to see like all the different levels of Spanish and kids embracing like, okay, yeah, I'm Hispanic and I speak Spanish, and it's like it doesn't matter what level of Spanish you speak, like we're just here to like speak Spanish. And then you have kids there that like are speaking like a very like a very different mixes of Spanglish. So you'll have like, and it's fun. It's fun because they're like one word in English, one word in Spanish, one word in English. You know, you meet them where they're at, and we all learn from each other, and it's a good time. We have fun.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I can imagine those families are so happy to have some kind of experience like that.
Yeah, and it's so laid back and fun, but I remember when I started this event, I was like, this is so enriching. Like, the kids that come back, like, they are familiar with our natural areas. They know, like, now they're starting to recognize plants. They have, like, a newfound respect for nature. The moms and, like, the parents that come, las abuelitas, like, they all learn something from the walks, and they start asking questions. And it's, like, it is, like, a community event, you know? Like we're coming together, and like how you said, like people will come and be like, oh, that's in my country, like I've seen that in my country, and like we use this for this, and like this is medicine where I come from, this is food where I come from. So it's cool to see that, like.
No, but I love that, and I really resonate with that as well, having been in similar situations, teaching Spanish-speaking populations or like people of like Latin heritage, because it unlocks this other way to connect with them, and then to kind of have that like touch point, and then being like, okay, let me take you to this that I'm really excited about and passionate about. It's like, I find it much more gratifying, I feel like, because it's like a different, I don't know, a different level of gratitude, I feel like, because something we were talking about before we started recording was how sometimes, well, probably most of the time, like having access to the outdoors and outdoor education is something only for very privileged people, and with that comes a whole other can of worms. But I think that's also why I find being able to lead Spanish programs out in nature is that much more powerful, because it's like maybe they never had that opportunity before, or when you think of like, when you were talking about las abuelitas, it makes me think of like maybe older generations have had more of a connection to the land that has been lost, not only through maybe immigrating to another country, but then just how society and trying to survive in a new place has gone through the generations. Then with the kids or the grandkids, you know, there's that kind of not block, that like disconnect. So that's just like, it's really, I think, a privilege for us to be in that position.
To be able to teach them. Exactly. Yeah, and I think also a big part of it is that like a lot of people don't know about the natural areas that we have in South Florida, because there's not many. And the ones that are there are very small. And a lot of the time, something that is not talked about enough is that like these spaces are not being used for what they're intended for. And so people don't feel safe going to them a lot of the time. And that's, at least in Broward County, that's like the problem with a lot of my parks. And to be a guide for people gives them that sense of safety of like, I'm here with someone who knows this place, who can take me through it, and who's going to make sure that I'm going to be safe. For a lot of our programs, we do have like park rangers come with us and like sweep the area, make sure everything's like good and safe before we start a program, just to like, you know, that extra little step. But it's like, no, we have to like reclaim these spaces and like use them for what they're meant for, you know, which is like to connect with nature, to disconnect from like the world for a minute and just like relax and, you know, be one with the earth for a minute. Yeah.
We were talking before about like how yoga has really been helpful for you to manage all the stress. And the weight that you do carry as an outdoor educator. It's thinking about safety. It's like making sure everyone's physically okay, not getting dehydrated, having heat stroke, but then also like, don't be scared of that snake is just a black racer or something, you know? Like, it's a lot to juggle in maybe an hour or two with a group that maybe you've never been with before, right? So it's like a lot to manage. And I think that's one aspect I want you to kind of think about, but also as a business owner, like I'm now learning the entrepreneur life is also juggling so many things and wearing so many
Yeah.
hats. And I'm curious, you can speak to yoga, but maybe if there's something else that you feel like is something that is a form of self-care that really pours into your cup.
Yeah.
Because and if your answer is bubble baths, great. But I'm wondering if there's maybe something else that's like a step further, or maybe something else somebody may not do or first think about to
Yeah.
like manage the stress. I'm kind of asking this selfishly, but it might be something great someone can hear and be like, oh, that's a great thing I want to take from this
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, I think definitely like being an informal environmental educator is beautiful, but it's also exhausting physically and emotionally. And I have like struggled a lot with maintaining my mental health at like a healthy capacity. I'm kind of the kind of person who like works to the point of burnout. And like I used to joke around, I don't anymore because I know the intensity of it, but I used to joke around of like, oh, I like to edge on burnout. Like I like to like get right before I burnt out and then like chill for a second. And as soon as I started saying that, I was burning out like very like too frequently. I was getting sick like once a month. Like I would have to miss like programs that I worked for, like that I had like prepared because I was getting sick, and I was like getting really annoyed with myself. And then I was like, wait, like I'm doing this to myself. Like I'm literally neglecting my own health because I want to teach yoga and I want to teach people self-care tools. And it's like, wait, but I'm not that person, you know,
Right.
like I'm not applying the things that I'm teaching. And so I definitely did have to take like a big step back. And I'm still going through this journey of like, okay, no, I need to prioritize my needs before I give. But just being like disconnected from everything that I'm doing work-wise.
Yeah.
Spending time with family has been very nurturing. I have a very loving family, which is like such a blessing. But I think, yeah, just disconnecting is the biggest thing. I do not have time for bubble baths. I wish I did.
I know.
I really do, but I don't have time for that. If that was my self-care tool, I would be so happy. But I think I've heard massages are really nice. I definitely want to get into getting massages.
I highly recommend. I don't do them enough, but when you do get a massage, it's like, why don't you do this more often?
Yeah, I definitely, that's something I want to start like doing more regularly. I've heard it's really good for you. But other than that, like a lot of my yoga practices are very nurturing, healing. One of the main ones that I think has been like the most helpful is called Yoga Nidra. So it's kind of like a meditation sort of, where you like lay down and you put on like a recording of some sort. And if you look up Yoga Nidra on YouTube, there's so many. And it just kind of like, you go through like a body scan, you relax your body to the maximum, and you like reflect on an intention that you have that's very, you know, like you're the biggest thing that you want to like either change or maintain, or you know, or like implement into your life. Like you repeat that throughout the meditation. That practice has been very nurturing to me. Meditation in general is like my biggest form of self-care.
Yeah. Very powerful.
Yeah, just like just going through my thoughts, because when I do this, it's not quiet in here, it's very loud, but just sitting with those thoughts and like processing them and being like, okay, I'm exaggerating over here, and like I'm overthinking this thing, and like I should let go of this thing, like just going through my thoughts. Very, very good.
I love that. I feel like for me personally, I don't do that enough, and that's something I'm getting from like multiple angles. Like I'm working with a dietitian right now, and she's like, meditation can really help you, and I'm like, I know, girl.
It's not easy. It's not
hard.
easy, and you have to find, because there's so many different like techniques of meditation, so you just have to find like the one that works for you. But yeah, there's so much to figure out in here.
Yes.
So
And it's a process, not only in the moment when you're meditating, but I feel like getting into like that what's the word I'm looking for? Not routine, but getting into that, like getting used to it, I guess, is also
like creating
something
the
that
habit.
takes time.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It does take time and like a lot of intention. Yeah. The desire to do it has to be very strong.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Absolutely.
And like this whole process of like just thinking about doing it is part of it. So like you're doing it. You're doing it.
I got first step down.
Exactly. You're just
But continuing the process, it's like I do agree. The intentionality has to be there. So
Yeah.
you can like follow through, and then I can imagine after you have one of those sessions that you're a different person.
Yeah, I'm just like calmer. I'm able to just like do the things I have to do in my house without feeling overwhelmed. Like I remember at like the lowest point where I was just like working and like doing stuff at home and like, you know, trying to keep up with the everyday and not really like taking a break at any point. And if I did take a break, I was like, sun salutations, you know, like, oh, I'm going to do all this stretches. And it's like, no, sometimes you just got to sit, you know? I remember I was like putting away clothes. I was just like doing laundry. And I dreaded the task of putting away my clothes so much that it like brought me to tears. And I was like putting away my clothes like, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm not okay. Like this should not be happening. Like this is strange. My mental health is not good right now. And so like after I finish, like when I come home from work, if I do yoga nidra or if I do a meditation or if I just take a moment to like play with my cat and sit in silence or have a cup of tea, afterwards I'm able to put away my clothes without crying. So like I do see the effects of it. Yeah. It's not like I'm like, yay, I get to put away my clothes. But it is more like, okay, this is what I have to do now and it's okay. And this is what I have to do now.
That's huge.
Yeah. Big difference.
I know. It's so hard. We were talking about this before as well, but it's just so hard to exist these days.
Yeah.
And not only, do the mundane tasks, but like, our professions. So it's definitely a challenge, I think, from all angles. I'm curious to know, I feel like both avenues of work that you take on are very much connected to people because you're working with people in both ways. Maybe, well, both very personally, I guess, because you were saying like there's so much baggage people bring, and I can imagine it's regardless if it's outside or during a yoga practice.
Yeah.
But how would you say, from either angle, choose or talk about both, how would you say you've connected to the community in general more through your work?
How I've connected to the community. I think it's something I'm still working on, I guess. I feel like I'm the kind of person who's very like friendly. I like to get to know people and like of different backgrounds, different stories. So I don't know, I think I've seen a little bit of like everything that exists within this like South Florida community, and there's so many different kinds of people who live here. I've worked with a lot of people within like the holistic health scene and also within the science world and like conservation efforts and all that stuff. And the people who have really like stood out to me the most are people who have been working with science in general regarding like Florida nature. So people working with like fish or with plants or whatever the case may be, with weather, whatever. And what I love most about them is that they're completely detached from the outcome of their work. So what they're doing, they do because they're so passionate about it, and they've been doing it for so long that they've seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And the reason that they're still doing what they do is not for anything else. It's not to change the world, it's because it's what they're passionate about, and it's what gets them out of bed every morning, and it's like you see it all when you've been working in the field for so long. But at the end of the day, you're showing up because you want to and because you're passionate about it, and not because you're going to get an award or because you're going to get this grant or whatever. It's purely for themselves. And that stood out to me a lot because we get very attached to the outcome of our work, and it shouldn't be like that. We're doing this for ourselves. We're doing this because we feel called to do it, because we want to do it. And if people decide to appreciate that, decide to keep showing up to our programs, that is completely up to them. And all we can do is continue to show up.
Yeah. and do that good work.
Yeah. But because we want to, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the one thing I'm very proud to be selfish about.
Yes.
Because I feel so passionate about it, and like I've told this to a lot of people in my journey, but like for me, this is the truest truth of my life. It's like I love this earth, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to tell people why it's so important to protect, and why it's so amazing. And like I've never really thought about like fate or destiny or anything, but I just know that's my calling. Like that's why I'm on this planet, you know. So like I hope one day to be like these people you admire, and hopefully other people can see me and be like, this crazy lady, but she's still doing the good work, you know. Like I definitely, I've met a lot of people like that are also like, who cares about what other people have to say. They're doing it for themselves, and because they know it matters. And that's exactly why we're also in the same position too. This is just a snippet of all this like the amazing information we're gonna like cover together. I want to dig so much into your brain, but I know we're low on time. Last few things I wanted to chat with you about is one kind of like hypothetical question. But let's say you won the lottery and you didn't have like any budget tomorrow, and you were able to like launch a huge project that you think would be like, you know, dream come true.
Yeah.
What would you want to do?
I've thought about this. I would definitely want to buy as much land as possible. Land that cannot be restored into a native habitat. I would use to build like food forests, so people could have access to like fresh, locally sourced food. And then anything that is like has any way to still be protected as like native habitat, definitely plant all the native stuff, and like specific to that place. So that's like a big conversation. It's like just because it's native, well, a conversation I have a lot within my job. Just because it's native to Florida doesn't mean it's native to like this specific area.
Yes.
You know? So it's like right plant, right place. Like if we are in a swamp, you're not gonna plant, I don't know, like an oak tree, you know? Like that just doesn't make sense. So like you would plant cypress, you would plant cabbage palms, you would plant pond apple. So yeah, stuff like that. Like definitely preserving native ecosystems, and then employing people, obviously, to like maintain these areas, which I think is very important.
I love that answer. I was kind of like, where are you going with this? When you were like, land not to be restored, I was like, wait, what?
Well, because there's some soil that's damaged to the point where you can't. Like we have some sites in Broward County where like the soil was so disturbed that like just the like soil is the beginning of everything. So it's like if that is disturbed and it doesn't have the quality to be able to grow the native things, then like you have to find some sort of use for it. Like we have an area where we keep like pushing everything down, planting all the native stuff that is there historically, like by record, we know all that stuff is there historically, and then just like weeds come up and like vines take over, and like it just shows that like, okay, this soil is not
literally telling you like
no, it's not gonna happen. We can't go back, you know. Like once it's damaged, like you can't fix it. Because like that area, like this park, you know, even like it took thousands of years to find its balance. It took thousands of years to like all these plants and animals to adapt to living here and to evolve to live here. So it's like once you disturb it, it's going to take thousands of years to get back to that like synchronicity, and it's like we don't want to waste it. And I think food is very important. I think it's one of like our crises. Like if we have more locally sourced food, like that would solve so many problems.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I love that. I think that is a solution in so many ways, like you were talking about, like with the land itself, but then also feeding people is huge. Employing people is a whole other can of worms. So like, tell me when you're ready. I'm gonna help you. I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. And you know, I said it was a hypothetical question, but I also want to believe that speaking it into existence will make it happen one day in some shape or form. So like in other conversations I've had asking that same question, I'm like, this can be a reality. I mean, it's not very easy,
Right.
but like, I don't know. I feel like the first step is just being like, I really see this vision. I would like this to happen, and then, you know, seeing what comes out of that. Either if
Yeah.
they take that on personally, or someone's like, I believe in this. Let's work together.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love collaboration. Like, that's why I'm here. Like, I love working with other people who have like a similar vision as I do. After you asked me that question, though, now I have like all these things. I'm like, no, I would also build a school, so I would teach people about. So I'm having way too many ideas now. But yeah, it's nice to meet people who like see the importance of like unity. You know, like, yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like in other interviews where I've asked this question too, having a place to provide something is something that's come up a lot too. So it's like in my last interview I did, we were like talking about this concept, and Lily was the interviewee, and she was like, maybe that's because that's really what we need, you know, is a place of gathering, is a place of learning, is a place of rehabilitation in some way. And I'm just like, that literally makes sense, but I didn't really think about it in that way until she like had that thought process. So I was like, that's so true. Like,
and we don't have that here. Yeah, like everything is so like separated, and it's like if you have to be part of like an inner circle, or you have to have like your group of people in order to like get outside of your house, literally, you know. And if you don't go outside of that comfort zone, if you don't seek out that like external community, it's really hard to find. So yeah, I definitely agree with that big time.
I don't want to keep talking about this because then we're going to go into a whole other thing. But I hear you. I'm ready for whatever this land situation happens. And I'm just like excited for what's to come because like we were talking about, we're doing this great work for a reason. It's making an impact. So we just got to keep doing good work. So I want to end with if there's anything you want to like self-promote. I know you have your Instagram account. If you feel like you'd want to share that, or anything just to kind of give you that boost in visibility to support you.
Yeah. So my Instagram is Camila_does_yoga. And that's where I promote like a lot of my yoga classes, but also my naturalist-led events. I also put a little bit of information about yoga and nature whenever I feel inspired to. But yeah, if you're trying to come to one of my programs, feel free to DM me. I can send you like the registration link, and yeah.
Yes, and I'll put all that information on the screen in the description of all of this. We'll get all the promotion going, so everyone will know where to find you.
Yay!
Thank you so much.
Of course, beautiful. Yeah, this was nice.
Like I said, not the last, the first, but not the last conversation. So we'll see each other again.
Yay!
And thank you all for watching.
Bye.